room is smaller than Nadia expected. That is the first thing she registers when they walk in. Not the faces, not the arrangement of bodies, not even Vivian standing at the far table already in conversation with Gerald Fitch. The room itself, a county probate hearing room in a building that was probably constructed in the mid-70s and has not been substantially renovated since. Drop ceiling, fluorescent panels, laminate table that runs the length of the space. 2 water pitchers at opposite ends that nobody touches. 3 windows along one wall face a parking structure. The light coming through them is grey and flat. The same light as the fluorescents, and together they eliminate shadow entirely. Everything in the room exists at the same level of brightness. Nothing recedes. Nadia had imagined over the preceding 11 months. Something with the gravity of a courtroom. Dark wood, elevated bench, a flag in the corner. The kind of architecture that tells you a decision is being made here. This room tells you nothing except that it has held many meetings and will hold many more, and that whatever happens here will be logged and filed and stored in the same building that has stored county records for 5 decades. The magistrate is already at the head of the table when they arrive. She is reading something in a manila folder, not looking up, not acknowledging the room filling. And she is a small woman with reading glasses pushed down her nose and a yellow legal pad to her left that has several lines of handwriting already on it. The handwriting is even and vertical. She writes the way someone writes who does not need to go back and correct. Patricia guides Nadia to the left side of the table. Solomon Pruitt takes a chair along the wall, to the left of the door, which is where witnesses wait before they are called. He has a leather portfolio on his knees. He sits with his hands folded on top of it and does not look around the room. Vivian is across the table. She is wearing grey, the same grey she wore to Earl's funeral, or something so close that the difference doesn't matter. And she has both hands on the table in front of her, flat, the way she always keeps them when she is in a situation she has decided to manage. Fitch is beside her, flipping through a yellow accordion file. He does not look up when Nadia sits. Nadia folds her hands in her lap and looks at the water pitcher. The magistrate closes her folder. "Ye hear on the contested probate matter of the estate of Earl Gaines," she says, not loudly. "I've read both briefs. I have questions before we proceed to testimony." She looks first at Patricia, then at Fitch. "Ms. Okafor, walk me through what you've submitted." Patricia sets the documents on the table in sequence, naming each one as she places it. The original will, signed by Earl Gaines in 1988 and witnessed by 2 individuals whose full contact information is on file. The amended instrument, dated 14 months before Earl's death, submitted to probate by Vivian Gaines Holloway 4 days after his death. The medical records, 2 dates circled in red ink, the date of Earl's dementia diagnosis. 16 months before his death, the date on the amendment. 14 months before his death. The gap between them is 2 months, and Patricia does not comment on it. She sets the document down and lets the magistrate look. Then the sworn statement from Solomon Pruitt, 6 pages, tabbed at 2 points. Then the 5th document, the independent forensic examiner's report on the Marcus debt note, which concludes, in the language examiners use, which is precise and allows no room for softening. that the ink in the upper right quadrant of the document, specifically the quadrant containing the date and the initial signature of the alleged creditor, is inconsistent with the age of the paper substrate. The paper is old. The ink is not. Patricia does not editorialize. She names what each document is and places it. "What you're asking the court to do today," she says, "is not complicated. We are asking the court to look at two documents bearing the same testator's name, one predating his dementia diagnosis by 8 years, one signed 2 months after that diagnosis. Evaluate the corroborating testimony about the circumstances of that later signing, and determine whether the amended instrument was executed with the testator's genuine, uninfluenced consent." Fitch starts before Patricia finishes her sentence. "Your Honor, the testator retained the legal right to amend his will at any point, including during a period of early-stage cognitive—" "Mr. Fitch!" The magistrate does not raise her voice. "I've read the briefs. Let me ask your client something directly." She looks at Vivian. The quality of the silence that follows is not comfortable. It is the silence of a room in which someone is about to answer a question they knew was coming. "You arranged for the amendment to be signed at your father's home." "Not at an attorney's office. He wasn't well enough to travel," Vivian said. "And you arranged for the witnesses?" "I asked 2 people I trusted. Your employees at the time." A pause. Not long. 3 seconds, maybe 4. But 3 seconds of silence in a room with fluorescent lighting and a magistrate's pen hovering over a legal pad is an observable unit of time. At the time, yes. The magistrate wrote something. She did not look up while she wrote it. She answered that question the way you answer a question you knew was coming, but hoped would arrive from a different direction. I had watched Vivian manage information for 40 years. The way she introduced a subject, the way she timed a disclosure, the way she made a decision that had already been made sound like a conversation in progress. She was precise and she was practiced, and she had arranged the amendment and the probate filing and the deed transfer with the same precision she had used to arrange everything else in her life. But the magistrate was not asking about arrangements. She was asking about witnesses and about whom those witnesses worked for. And Vivian's answer, "At the time, yes," was the most honest and the most damaging thing she said in that room. Because at the time means she understood the appearance of it. She had understood it from the beginning. She just believed it wouldn't matter. The magistrate wrote something. She set her pen down and looked towards Solomon Pruitt. "Mr. Pruitt!" He rose and took the seat at the end of the table that had been left open for him. He set his leather portfolio flat and folded his hands on top of it. The magistrate thanked him for coming and told him to take his time. He is 77 years old. He wears the kind of suit that gets pressed the same way every week, because there is a system for it. He speaks in complete sentences and does not backtrack. "Earl Gaines and I have been friends since 1963, he said. "We met when we were both working at the same firm. I left the law in 1996. Earl remained close. He called me the way old friends call, not frequently, but consistently." "And the call in question," Patricia said. "When did it come?" "It came on a Sunday, the 14th. I confirmed the date from my phone records, which are in the submission. He said Vivian had made him sign some papers. He said he wasn't sure what they were. He said... A pause, but not a hesitation. He was locating the exact phrase, the way someone locates a page number they have already memorized. And I wrote this down that same evening in my journal, because something about the call troubled me. He said, she told me Nadia doesn't want the property anymore. She said it would be easier. He said it in a way that suggested he believed it. But he trusted his daughter. Fitch moved forward in his chair. Mr. Pruitt, isn't it possible that Earl, in his condition at the time, may have... He called me on Sundays when something was wrong. In 40 years, he called me on Sundays when something was wrong. That Sunday, something was wrong. Fitch's pen did not move. He looked down at his papers, and then at his client, and then back at his papers. There is nothing useful to do with a 77-year-old retired attorney who has a contemporaneous journal entry and who looks at you with the patience of someone who has outlived every person who ever tried to rush him. The cross-examination was 4 questions. It established nothing. It ended. The magistrate asked Patricia if she was ready to proceed. Miss Gaines! Nadia moved to the chair at the end of the table. Her hands were flat on her knees, and she kept them there. The room was the same temperature it had been when they arrived. The water pitcher was still untouched. What did your grandfather say to you? Patricia asked. During the call you described in your declaration. The one placed 11 months before his death. He said the Millbrook Road property was mine. He said he had written it down. He said Mr. Pruitt would know what to do if there was ever confusion. And he said, don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Did he indicate who he meant? No, I didn't know who he meant. Not until I sat across from my aunt in her kitchen 3 days after his funeral, and she handed me a single page. Vivian did not look at Nadia when she said that. She looked at Fitch's hands, at the pen lying flat on the yellow accordion folder. And Nadia understood, looking at her, that she had spent 11 months being afraid of a certainty that had never actually been as solid as it appeared. Vivian had built her case the way she built everything, precisely, in layers, making sure each piece was in place before the next piece was added. She had moved through Earl's estate like someone who had been practicing for it. And she had been practicing for it. That was not a metaphor. That was the sequence of events as the documents demonstrated it. But the original document predated the diagnosis by 8 years. Hyatt Earl had written it when he was 71 and healthy and methodical. In the same year, he sorted the storage unit and labelled the folders and gave Solomon Pruitt the letter that had eventually reached Nadia's hands. The original document was not a response to Vivian. It was written before there was anything to respond to. That was the gap that no amended instrument and no debt note and no mobile notary could close. Patricia had no further questions. Fitch's cross-examination was brief. He asked whether Earl had made other statements during that call. He asked whether Nadia had any documentary evidence of the call itself, beyond her own recollection. Patricia entered the phone record into evidence without being asked. Fitch noted it without comment. He had no further questions either. The magistrate looked at both sides of the table. I'll take this under advisement, she said. You'll receive written notice of the ruling within 72 hours. She stood. The proceeding was over. The whole thing had taken 2 hours and 14 minutes. In the parking structure elevator, Patricia looked at her phone. Nadia looked at the door. Solomon Pruitt was still in the building. He had stayed to speak with the magistrate's clerk about some procedural matter Nadia did not follow. The elevator was small and mirrored, and the overhead light had the same quality as the fluorescents in the hearing room. "How do you think it went?" Nadia said. "I think it went correctly," Patricia said. She put her phone away. The independent examiner's report was the piece I was least sure about. Whether she would weigh it heavily enough in the context of the other documents. But the witnesses being employees, that mattered. The call being on a Sunday, that mattered. Solomon was exactly what I told you he would be. Which was what? Unimpeachable. The elevator doors opened. They walked to the car. Nadia drove home, made coffee, and sat at the kitchen table for a long time without doing anything in particular. The ruling arrived 2 days later. Patricia called before the certified envelope reached the mailbox. "The original will is reinstated," she said. "The amendment is voided. The deed transfer to Damon is reversed as having been made from an estate whose authorized executor, Mr. Pruitt, did not authorize the conveyance. Vivian is removed as executor. The matter is referred to the County DA's office for review of potential elder financial abuse." She said it in that order. She said it flat, the way Patricia said everything when she was reporting outcomes, as a list of facts, not a story. No connective tissue, no build, no landing that invited response. Nadia wrote each item down on the notepad she kept next to the phone. The same notepad she had used 11 months ago when she wrote the name of Earl's estate attorney and drew a line through it and wrote Patricia Okafor's name instead. She had asked Patricia once, in the 4th month of the case, whether she ever felt satisfaction when something went the way it had gone here. They had been standing outside after a document filing, and the question came out of somewhere Nadia did not fully track. Not strategic, not lawyerly, just the question. Patricia had considered it for a moment. "I feel that I did the work correctly," she said. Nadia had nodded as though she understood, which she had not. Not fully. Not yet. She understood it differently now. There is a satisfaction in work done correctly. It does not announce itself. It arrives like the ruling arrived, in a flat list, in the morning, in a voice that does not change register between the first item and the last. The satisfaction is not in the announcement. It is in the fact that every item on the list is there because someone, somewhere, did the work correctly. Earl in 1988, signing the original document with 2 witnesses who were not his employees. Solomon Pruitt on a Sunday night in October, writing down what a troubled phone call contained. Patricia Okafor, setting 5 documents on a laminate table in sequence. The satisfaction is in the sequence, in the fact that the sequence held. The deed to the Millbrook Road parcel transferred out of Damon's name on a Thursday, 17 days after the ruling. The title company processed it back to the estate at 11:14 in the morning, and the estate held it for 19 days, while Solomon completed the administrative steps required to distribute under the reinstated will. And then it transferred to Nadia at 9:02 on a Wednesday. she received a copy by email with a PDF attachment. She opened the PDF, read the first paragraph to confirm the parcel description matched what she had memorized. 3.4 miles from the intersection. Half an acre, bounded on the south side by a concrete retaining wall. And then closed the email. Damon's attorney filed no further opposition. The word that reached Nadia through Gloria was that Damon was keeping a low profile. She did not pursue what that meant. She did not need to. Vivian was removed as executor the same day the ruling was issued. She was served by the DA's office 6 days later, which is when the Elder financial abuse investigation became a matter of record. She has retained a criminal defense attorney. As of the recording of this video, the investigation is ongoing. That is what she can say with accuracy. And that is what she will say. Gerald Fitch was referred to the State Bar for review of potential ethics violations stemming from the mobile notary arrangement and the alleged Marcus debt document, which the independent forensic examiner determined to be inauthentic. The ink was wrong. The paper was old. The ink was not. And in the upper right quadrant where the creditor's initial and the date appeared, the inconsistency was significant enough that the examiner used the phrase, "not consistent with contemporaneous creation." Fitch's State Bar matter is also pending. These things take time. The court ordered the $84,000 in unauthorized disbursements returned to the estate. Whether they are returned in full is a matter Patricia believes will take another year to resolve, possibly longer if certain accounts have moved. Nadia has accepted this. The ruling is what it is. The money will move when it moves. On the Marcus debt document, the examiner's report cleared Marcus's name in the court record. That is stated here once and will not be returned to. It is in the filing. It is what the document record shows. Nadia's father did not owe $60,000 to Vivian's estate. He never did. The document that said he did was not authentic. And the court record now reflects that. She says this once because it is a fact, and she says it here because it belongs in the accounting of what happened. And then she moves on because Marcus is not alive to receive it, and the only person who needed the record to be correct is already gone. And the record is now correct. Solomon Pruitt called the Sunday after the ruling. Nadia was in the kitchen when the phone rang, and she knew from the time, 10:17 in the morning, that it was him. "I spoke with the title company this morning," he said. "They confirmed the reversal. The property is in the estate's name again, pending final distribution." "Good. He would have been. He would have." He stopped. "I know. I should have done something sooner." "You did something when I asked you to. That's what mattered." There was a pause. Traffic from somewhere, through his window or hers. She could not tell. "He kept your drawings," Solomon said. "In the study drawer. He showed them to me once. He said, 'This is Nadia. She was 7. She drew this. Look at that.' He said it like he had never seen anything so remarkable in his life." Nadia did not say anything for a moment. Outside, a car passed. "Thank you for telling me," she said. "He calls on Sundays. He has called every Sunday since the ruling. He will keep calling on Sundays until the estate is fully administered, and probably after." Gloria gave her statement in the 9th month, and she received her full original share restored by court order. She and Nadia have spoken 3 times since the ruling. Not easily. The conversations are short and precise, and they do not cover everything there is to cover. But they speak. That is what Nadia will say about it. They speak. The first time Nadia visited the Millbrook Road parcel as its legal owner, she brought nothing with her. No folder, no camera, except her phone. No person. She drove out on a Tuesday afternoon because Tuesday was available, and there was no ceremonial reason to wait for a better day. The parcel is 1/2 acre. Earl Gaines bought it in 1971 for $8,400, which was a significant amount for the time and for his circumstances at the time. And whatever he built on the concrete platform was built sometime in the mid-70s and was torn down or fell sometime before Nadia was born. The platform remains, a rectangle of cracked concrete, maybe 30 feet by 20, with weeds pushing up through every seam. The neighborhood has changed around it in the 50-some years since, twice over, and what it is now is a parcel with a concrete platform and a chain-link perimeter and a lemon tree at the east edge that is enormous in the way of things that have been growing for 50 years without anyone managing their shape. She stood under the lemon tree for a while. The smell was stronger than she had expected. Not the grocery store citrus she had been imagining, but something heavier and more present. The kind of smell that is almost physical, that sits in the air like something you could put your hand through. The tree was taller than the chain link by at least 10 feet. The branches were dense enough that the afternoon light came through in sections, broken into separate pieces, and the traffic from the road moved under all of it without any awareness of itself. She took a photograph of the concrete platform. The photograph shows the platform, the weeds in the cracks, the far edge of the tree's canopy at the top right corner of the frame, and the retaining wall behind it. She did not take a photograph of the tree itself. She does not fully understand why she photographed the platform and not the tree, except that the platform is the thing that will change. Whatever she decides to do with the parcel, the platform will be broken up and removed. And this is the last time it will look exactly this way. And she wanted a record of how it looked. She walked the perimeter twice, following the fence line. The property is level, except at the south corner, where the ground drops 4 or 5 inches toward the retaining wall. She noted it. She does not know yet what she will do with the parcel. She has time. She drove to the storage unit on the way home. The storage unit has 12 boxes and 3 items of furniture that belong to Marcus. And she has been in it 47 times over the last year. She knows where everything is. She went to the box with the manila folders, took out the folder with Marcus's handwriting on the label, put it back, and then picked it back up and held it for a moment. Then she put it in the passenger seat of the car. She scheduled the storage unit clean-out for the following week. The furniture will go to a donation service. 10 of the 12 boxes will go with it. She is keeping 3 things: the folder with Marcus's handwriting, Earl's letter, the one Solomon had held for 2 years and couriered to her at the start of this, and one childhood drawing from the study drawer. Solomon brought it to her when he came to finalize some estate paperwork, 3 weeks after the ruling, sliding it out of a manila envelope with the careful hands of someone transporting something he understood was irreplaceable. It is a crayon drawing of a house with an enormous yellow sun. In the upper left corner, in the handwriting of a 7-year-old, is her name. Earl kept it in the study drawer for 30 years. Too important to frame and too important to put away. And now she keeps it in a folder in a box, which is the same logic. And she understands this about herself without needing to do anything about it. She drove home. She made coffee the way Earl taught her. Thick with sugar, heated twice on the stove, and sat with it at the kitchen table. Gloria called at 6:15. "I went to see it," Nadia said. "And there's a lemon tree. He planted it the year your daddy was born," Gloria said. 1971. Said he wanted Marcus to have something alive that was his own age. "I didn't know that." "I thought you knew. He told everybody." A pause. "He told everybody except the people who thought the land was just land." The coffee was the right temperature. Outside, the light was the late kind, the kind that turns everything the same color for a few minutes before it goes. "Okay," Nadia said. "Okay," Gloria said. They said goodbye, and Nadia finished the coffee and washed the cup. I want to pause here for a moment before the end, because something about that lemon tree keeps coming back to me when I think about what my grandfather was actually trying to do when he made that original will. He wasn't just distributing assets. He was trying to make sure that the people he loved would have something alive that was theirs. And my aunt understood the asset and missed everything else. If this story meant something to you, if you've been through something in your own family that felt like this, or if you know someone who has, share it with them. Not because the ending is comforting, but because sometimes people in the middle of it need to know that the original document can still matter. Subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. There is a thing people say when a situation like this resolves in your favor. They say you must feel vindicated. They use that word, vindicated, and they mean it as a gift, as the best possible gift, as the word that wraps it up and closes it. Nadia does not feel vindicated. She wants to be honest about that. What she feels is something closer to what she imagines her grandfather felt when he made that original will. The knowledge that you have put something true in writing, and that the writing exists now, independent of whether anyone believes you. The document doesn't need you to defend it. It just needs to be found. Vivian called herself the family executor for 11 months. She arranged every piece of paper, managed every correspondence, controlled the information that moved through the family the way she had always controlled information, by deciding who needed to know what and when. She framed her authority as inheritance, as duty, as the natural order of a family in which she had always been the one who handled things. She was, for 11 months, exactly what she called herself. And then Nadia walked into that lawyer's office. She wants to be precise about what actually happened in that room, because the story she has told today could be heard as a story about the power of documents, or the power of attorneys, or the power of a lucky filing in a storage unit south of the city. Those things matter. But what actually happened in that room is this. A magistrate looked at what Vivian had put in writing and compared it to what Earl had put in writing. And Earl was more careful and more honest and more precise, and that precision survived him. Not by accident, not by luck, by habit. A habit he had maintained across 50 years of keeping records that embarrassed the rest of the family with their specificity, their dates, their careful labels in black permanent marker. Earl kept a ledger. He sorted every box and labeled every folder. He called Solomon Pruitt on Sundays when something was wrong, and when he was sick and frightened and being told by his daughter that his granddaughter didn't want the property anymore. What he did, what Nadia believes he did, was say the thing that was wrong out loud, into a phone, to a man he had trusted for 40 years. So there would be a record of it somewhere. Even if he could not hold it himself anymore. Even if the record was a journal entry in someone else's handwriting, written the same evening in the same house miles away. He made it anyway. That was what he knew how to do. He left her a paper trail. He just didn't know he was doing it. Her aunt called herself the family executor. Then Nadia walked into that lawyer's office, and what she found there was what Earl had always meant her to find. Exactly what he had written down. What she understands now that she did not understand in the 3 days between Earl's funeral and Vivian's kitchen table, is that Earl's precision was not a personality trait. She had always thought of his record-keeping as fastidiousness. The ledgers, the labelled folders, the way he wrote down phone calls and dates and amounts in the same handwriting for 40 years. She had thought of it the way you think of a family member's particular habits, with affection, with mild embarrassment at the density of it, without understanding what it was for. She knows now what it was for. Every folder he labelled, every amount he recorded, every Sunday call he made to a man who would write down what he said. Those were not the behaviour of someone who worried about losing things. They were the behaviour of someone who understood that the people who love you will not always be in the room when someone claims to speak for them. He was making himself present in the room in advance. He was making himself present for a room he would never be in. Solomon's journal entry, dated and kept and produced under oath, was Earl in the room. The original will, signed in 1988 with 2 independent witnesses, was Earl in the room. The folder Marcus had labelled in his own handwriting was Marcus in the room. They were all there. They had been there the entire time. The one thing she did not do when Earl was alive, and she names this not as regret, but as the thing she would change, was sit with him and ask, where are the documents? And who else knows where they are? And what do you need me to understand while you can still tell me? She assumed those conversations would be available later. They were not. What she did the afternoon she found the folder in the storage unit was photograph every page before she moved it. Because her hands knew something her mind had not yet caught up to. She does that now for every family member who is elderly and has financial documents in play. She asks to sit with them. She photographs what they show her. She puts the name of an attorney in her phone on the same day. Not because she expects the worst. Because the documents don't need her to expect anything. They need to exist, and they need to be findable, and they need a second person who knows where they are. That is all. You can do that this week, with a phone and an afternoon, and whoever in your family is still able to tell you. Earl kept a ledger from 1969 until the year his handwriting started to change. He kept labelled folders for every property transaction, every insurance renewal, every loan he extended to anyone in the family, every document that bore his name. Nadia watched him do this for 30 years and understood it, she thought, as a personality trait. The kind of precision that makes you slightly exasperating to move or to help, because everything has a place, and the place is specific. She understood it the way you understand something you have seen so long, it stops registering as a choice. What she understands now is that it was a choice, made again every time he picked up a pen, and that the choice was not about order, it was about presence. Solomon Pruitt's journal entry existed because Earl said something true out loud on a Sunday, and Solomon wrote it down the same evening, dated, in his own hand. The folder Marcus labeled existed because Earl had organized it and kept it and stored it somewhere a person could find it. The drawing in the study drawer existed because Earl put it there and left it there for 30 years. None of that was fastidiousness. It was care made durable past the point where he could defend it himself. The one thing Nadia did not do when Earl was alive was sit with him and ask, "Where are the documents? And who else knows? And what do you need me to hold on to while you can still tell me?" She assumed that conversation was available later. When she found the folder in the storage unit, she photographed every page before she moved a single sheet. Her hands knew before her mind caught up. She photographs everything now for any family member who is elderly and has financial documents in play. She sits with them, she photographs what they show her, and she writes down the name of an attorney the same day. If you have someone in your life who fits that description, you can do exactly that this week.